One of the most profound things I've learned in my life is that it's actually not about my hair at all. I've spent a lifetime trying to cover up who I am. And as much as I love a good external transformation, and I do, I much more love a heart transformation. Join me as I share how I work to heal my heart, find happiness, and embrace our hair. Hey guys, welcome back to the It's Not About Your Hair podcast, where we talk, you know it, all things hair, heart, and happiness. I'm so happy that you're here, per usual. This episode, I wanted to go over all the things that I learned in Italy. We had left on a note where I talked about October was the month of confidence. If you are part of my newsletter, I send out a weekly newsletter called the Hair and Heart Weekly, where we kind of dive into all things Curl Boss, which is curly hair tips, stories behind my chair, updates on the podcast, and always a little bit of a personal note. I have been in the hardest season of my life. Hardest. Absolute hardest. And I've been through a lot. I've lost a business. I've had a salon walkout. I've had a fire. I've lost family members. I've had my marriage almost fail. I had a baby at 19. Lost so many things, you guys. And this season's been freaking harder than hell. And that's the truth. I'm going to get into that on the next episode. But today I wanted to talk about Italy and I don't want to say the bravery it took to go, but I'm in a season of hyper growth in my business and in areas of my business that I've been really praying for to grow. And Italy was an opportunity that came about, and I shared it with you guys on so many of the other episodes. If you're watching, you see my vision board in the back here. We talked about that, dreaming and visioning about where you want to end up and go. And from years ago when my exchange daughter, I think we were saying it was 2021 that she came, and she was from Rome. And I was like, I want to go there so bad, but I was so afraid. And for the last 4 years, I've often thought about the fact that this 16-year-old kid who had broken English, much better than my Italian, by the way, going into Italy, but she had broken English. This 16-year-old boarded a plane and traveled to a country she had only seen about to meet a family she had no idea who they were, and to trust us to care for her. And I was scared to go on a plane by myself and scared to go to a country where I didn't know the language, where I only had to stay for a few days. That had been rumbling around in my mind. And you guys know I've shared the journey of getting over my fear of flying and trusting that God had that planned for me, that I would become a missionary and that my mission work would be through curly hair, and that I would be brave enough to go. So the fear of going no longer gets me, but the personal fear of failing my family, that one always hits home. And I'm going to be honest about that one. As moms, I feel like we're freaking screwed. I feel like as women, there's a lot of pressure on us. I saw one of the other educators from InnerSense posted the other day that there's all these labels for mom: stay-at-home mom, working mom. She listed off all of them. I can't think of them now. But we have all these labels. But dads don't have those kinds of labels. You know, they're just providers, and no one asks them necessarily about their parenting usually. But moms get all the pressure. And I've shared this in earlier episodes, so I won't go too deep into it, but There was a season where I realized I had my priorities mixed up, and I closed the salon in pursuit of more time with my family. And in learning as you grow up as a human being takes time. Like I feel like every few years I go into a metamorphosis where I become another person. The years I homeschooled my kids that I thought was best and cut out TV, I went years without swearing, and somehow it's re-entered my life. I don't know about that. Not that swearing is like a thing, but it's interesting how there's seasons of your life. Um, this is going to lead to Rome eventually, you guys. But uh, two of my three girls are grown-ups, and my third one is 15. And there were long seasons of my life where I wouldn't, I missed a lot of things because of work. And then I gave that up and went into my suite and really focused in on creating balance, which I think is a lie. But ultimately, working on quality time more than balance, worked on healing, which I think takes a lifetime, and self-discovery. Only to enter into this new season where I think it's just the right time that I could travel. I would have never done the life that I'm living now when all my kids were little. It just wouldn't have been feasible. But with just one at home who's 15, and if any of you have a teenager, they're busy. You don't see them that much. And so really trying to pocket in my teaching on weekends and Mondays. And so the opportunity for Italy was a 10-day, longest I'd ever been away from my family. And again, two of my oldest are grown up. But leaving home, and I didn't know if it was the right thing to do, but I chose to say yes to it anyways, because I thought, me too, right? I know that's going to sound selfish for maybe moms at home. But I think when my kids were little, I didn't understand how important it was for me to take time for myself. I just always had mom guilt. Overwhelming mom guilt. Mom guilt when I went to work and then came home and wanted a babysitter for time for myself. Mom guilt that I had to ask my mom or my mother-in-law to help babysit. Mom guilt that I was exhausted and didn't want to cook dinner. And so the kids had SpaghettiOs or cereal or whatever it was. Mom guilt that I couldn't measure up. And so this season of these doors opening, and I'm finally saying yes. Me too. Not yes, me only. Not yes, like no one else. But I thought yes, me too. And so I hopped on this plane, no longer afraid, and went to Rome. The first half of the trip was a business retreat where I had to meet all new people, stay in a villa, which was not roughing it. I'm going to tell you right now. I had my own room and my own bathroom, which was quite fabulous, in the Italian countryside with a private chef. It was like literally too good to be true. I'll be going back next year with a group called Escape to Elevate, which I hope to interview all of these ladies on the podcast at some point. So stay tuned for that. And it was a business retreat. I've never done anything like that before, but it was 6 days where we dove into a specific area of our business. For me, it was my personal coaching, teaching, educating, how to be a better educator, how to clear up my messaging, not just as a stylist, but as an educator. And part of it for me was just getting out of my comfort zone, allowing myself to experience a new culture, new people, new ideas. I'm very resistant to new ideas. I think I'm so open to it, but then I'm just a creature of habit, or I say things like, well, I'm just doing what I think is authentic to me, which is sometimes a scapegoat for me not wanting to learn new things, maybe. And I found that even in this when I was in this training, the lady, Miss Jody, if you're listening, who runs it, I felt like when she gave me ideas, I questioned them a few times. And I finally said to her, I'm like, hey, will you call me out? I mean, that's why I'm here. That's why I paid money to be in this room, because I wanted your expertise, because I want to grow and change. And if you feel like every time you offer me an idea, I am resistant to it or have to say something about it, will you call me out? I give you permission to call me out. And what's interesting is in a future episode, I'm going to talk about what's going on in my personal life. And I noticed this in every area. The resistance to change, or somehow feeling like I'm not enough, where that shows up in my parenting, in my marriage, in my friendships, um, in my business, in my past business. I've said this a lot, but I heard from Randy Bixby, where how you show up in anything is how you show up in everything. So that's fun. And she said, no, I actually don't think that you're being resistant. She's like, I think that you have a unique story. And so all of the parts, which isn't kind of what I wanted to hear. I kind of wanted her to be like, listen, you're being a jackwagon and let's change these things. But most of life, that was also a big thing I learned, you guys, is that I often think that I'm failing, or that I need to make this huge 360 where maybe it's only a 20-degree turn. Maybe you're on the path, you're just a little bit off. Maybe you're just a little bit on the rumble strip, right? And I think the fear of thinking we have to make a 360 keeps us stuck, where maybe you just need to take 2 clicks to the left, 2 clicks, two turns, and you'll be where you're supposed to be. So in Italy, we did this training, this retreat. I learned a couple of things about messaging, but I learned a lot about listening to the women in the room from all over. Some really, all of them very brave. One of the ladies is completely pivoting. She's building a house in Thailand, giving up her life behind the chair, really moving into a totally different lifestyle and freedom. And she's doing it afraid. Quite a few of the ladies are pivoting and making transitions in their lives that are pretty big, and all of them carry major responsibilities. And it was really, really probably the most important for me was to be able to be in a room like that and see that we all struggle, but that there's victory on the other side, and that it's worth the fight. Like if you feel like you're called to something, and the power of being surrounded by people who are in the same spot as you. So I say this every episode, but I've talked about this before, but how are you doing with that? What is the room that you're constantly in? And I can't be in an Italian retreat all the time, but once a year maybe. Could I get on a phone call with these girls once a quarter? Is there an opportunity once every other year? Like maybe it's not every year, and maybe it's not, this is my first time doing that, but I've had other opportunities. How can you get in the room? And for me, it used to be books, so I couldn't get in the room. I didn't know the people, but being surrounded by people who understand you and maybe don't know you. I think that one was really good for me too, because I'm in such an intense personal struggle in my current life. Even getting on the plane felt like the wrong thing to do. To all of those fears of like, you're not a good enough mom, you're not a good enough wife, you're only thinking about yourself came into play. And then when I got there, I realized that thinking about myself is also important, because I can't give when I don't have anything to give. And even if I'm a total a-hole, and I don't have anything to give because I've chosen to run myself ragged, or I'm not seeing myself, I still need opportunities to see myself. You still need opportunities to get vulnerable, to expose yourself. And sometimes, why is it easier to expose yourself in a room full of strangers? See, I expose myself. So number one reason I created the podcast, I can just, it's like, okay, so we went to St. Peter's Basilica. And this is a funny story, and this is about exposing yourself. But there was all these little not rooms, they looked like wardrobes, like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. If you're Catholic and you've been there, you probably know what it is. Or maybe these are in every Catholic church, I just didn't know. But they look like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But inside of them was a priest, and it was a confessional. And they had them in every different language. And we walked past one, and if you're watching, the priest had his eyes closed and had his face resting on his hand like this. If you're listening, he had his hand resting and he had his eyes closed. And I said to my exchange daughter, Brittany, I said, look at that guy fell asleep. And she said, podcasting. And I didn't realize it was a confessional booth. And so then I felt embarrassed because he was listening to the guy on the other side. But so this is my weekly confessional, honestly. It's so relieving for me to share with all of you personal stories of my life, strangers, and just let it out. It's so good. So if you don't have a podcast, maybe just write it down and burn it. I do that sometimes too, or get in a group of people who can listen to. I also do this through Bible studies and my church family and all of that. But I struggle with personal relationships. I struggle with personal relationships. I struggle with being vulnerable in real life. That's a new revelation to me because I'm pretty vulnerable here. I'm pretty vulnerable on the internet. When I'm with real people, I think, not that you guys aren't real. Please don't leave. Lord have mercy. I believe that you're real. It's again that opportunity that we're not, I don't know, you could reject me. You could unfollow me. You could unfollow me and leave a nasty comment. But you're not close enough to me that I could feel completely rejected by that. So it creates, this is the truest version of me. I mean, I'm authentically giving you guys the truth here, but I'm also guarded because there's a level of protection where I really struggle in personal relationships that someone might reject me. Maybe you struggle with the same thing. So that is what I learned in the business part of my retreat. Second thing I learned, and so freaking fun, is that my exchange daughter, I was nervous to stay with her family because they don't speak English. Just my exchange daughter does. And I didn't know what their house was going to be like. And I didn't know if they were going to feel like I was imposing. And I went through all the list of didn't knows. And then I thought, you know what? Again, the 16-year-old was brave enough to do this. I can stay with her. It was so special. It was so special. I could have stayed in a hotel in downtown Rome, and I would have missed this opportunity to have such a sweet and special time with her mom and dad and with her, and to meet her boyfriend, Davida, and to meet her grandmas, and to go dancing with her mom's family for her mom's birthday, because we allow fear to get in our way. And in a really hard time, again, it was really special to have someone who really does know me, like Brittany, who lived with me for a year. She lived in my home. She knows my family. She knows me. And it was this two-sided coin, right? So the first half of my retreat, I got to be intimate with people I didn't know. On the second half of my trip, I had to choose to be intimate with someone I knew. And even with the language barrier with her mom, a mother's heart is the same. No matter what language or what culture, what color, what religion, I think at the end of the day, we all hope that we're doing what's best for our kids. Whether that's sending them on a study abroad program across the country, or leaving for 10 days because they need a break from you, or letting them leave. Because that's what's best for them. So that'll lead us to our next episode, but I'm so glad that you're here. I hope today you stretch yourself. You create a new circle, maybe just one new person you let in. You be vulnerable. You say, me too. What would it look like if you said, me too? I guess this is where I ask you to subscribe to my channel, to follow me on social, and to listen wherever podcasts can be found. And join me every Tuesday at 2 as we unpack how to heal your hair, your heart, and your happiness.